I would like to note that a lot of what we're talking about can sound a bit jargonish. I noted some down. I don't know how many people can immediately say what AB 32 is, or Waxman-Markey, or we didn't even talk about the elephant that used to be in the room, which was Kyoto, and now we're calling it post-Copenhagen. So just for the benefit of the audience and to put things in perspective, all three of you have really talked very interesting things about reactions to what we know is happening today in terms of compliance issues, and also talking about what we feel is going to happen in the future. My quick editorial side for those of you is, for example, California has taken leadership as a state and almost as a sovereign country with respect to its local legislation, and they can because they have certain rights over their industries. The U.S. has been very publicly absent in the dialogue until November 4th, 2008. And there's, that has changed the policy, I would imagine, sort of playing field for all of you watch. I'd like to ask you, in whichever order you'd like to give us a little sense of these sort of three levels of regulation, which are all in a moving target right now. California with its Assembly Bill 32, which is the one that we refer to as AB 32. The United States with its Energy Act, which in the House is called Waxman-Markey, and actually it's sort of funny, I haven't heard anyone give it a name yet for the Senate. If you guys know what it's going to be called when it hits the Senate, let me, or gets out of there, that'd be interesting. And then thirdly, very important for those of us who have been watching the dialogue with respect to climate change. Remember a few years ago we actually called it global warming, and we'd have to learn a new term. The whole United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which you'll know trips off your tongue as UNFCCC, and the Kyoto Protocol, which was the sort of implementing understanding by which countries signed up to do their reductions. So I'd love to hear you each comment a little bit on these three different levels and what the prospects are, because we know that all three could have new legislation within the next 2 months to 2 years. Why don't we just go on there, Jack? Could you give us a little bit of background?
Sure. The UNFCCC process, as everyone knows, has gone on forever, and started back in 1992. And is moving very, very slowly, much farther slow than what we need to do by the scientists with the fact of global warming. We know that global warming is accelerating. The temperature rising is beyond the worst scenario prediction we had just a year ago. So we need to take serious actions. However, the negotiation has traditionally been divided between the rich and poor countries and been locked into historical positions of equity and responsibilities. What needs to change in this debate, and especially the narrative going forward, is thinking about a new paradigm of framing the question, whether this is a cost issue, whether this is an opportunity issue, whether this is a new energy revolution that's dawning on us. The Industrial Revolution is supported by discovery of fossil fuels. Now we're told that we can't use fossil fuels anymore, at least the one that was heavy carbon content. And when you discover or invent a new entirely source of energy, that's in the trillions of dollars a year. And so that, to me, it's a huge opportunity for each state, each country to capitalize on it. Until we can tell people that the future is brilliant with possibilities, they're not going to take very active action pursuing that. I think in the discussion going forward, in the 6 months remaining before Copenhagen, we really need to emphasize on the positive side of the story of transformation of our energy economy.
Well, thank you for that UN framework. Just another date issue, which is December of this year. The countries will reunite to talk about the UN climate change question in Copenhagen. And so we see a lot of posturing. It's hard to get the full look at it, but we see a lot of posturing in the best sense, because each nation has a right to expound the way it thinks that legislation should go. Chris, can you give us something on one of these three levels?
Well, what Jiang said is about the UNFCCC. I don't want to jump on too much, but if you go to their website, they do have the countdown, and it's 132 days. So by tomorrow, we've got 131 days to wait. It is that is a slow process. And so what's happening on the other side of the big pond, on the other side of the Asia-Pacific region, is that there is a lot of posturing and a lot of positioning for the for what comes next, for any resulting agreement or framework where the costs and opportunities are going to be more explicit. And so for the lesser and least developed countries, the poorer and poorest countries, they're positioning themselves in a way as receivers of funding related to the Clean Development Mechanism and carbon offsets and things like that. But if you go around to the other side of the world, if you go over to Europe, and I want to bring in the European Union, and because they're on target to meet this first phase, the Kyoto Protocol, if they continue on the trend that they're on. And they're moving not simply to a low carbon economy, but to a climate risk reduction economy, which is back to that sense of a transformational change. It isn't just about reducing the amount of carbon, but it's actually looking at how we are going to develop the entire new paradigm of energy and industry policy, and then water. Because at some point we need to bring in water here as an important part of the conversation.